Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this final level subject of corporate and economy laws. And I'm C. Naveen Khandelwal, taking this session for today and few more sessions during this particular month. By this time, I think you have gone through the core area of company law. And today we will be starting with, I would say, a smaller portion of company law, but yes, very relevant in the overall context. So friends, as per the schedule, we'll be covering this topic of, just a second. This topic of inquiry, inspection, and investigation. From 206 to 229, I think these are the sections which we are going to cover today. Hopefully, in today's sessions, we'll be covering around what expected probable 4 marks questions, if all things go right. So 4 marks, nothing technical about these topics, plain simple sections. I would expect that a plain vanilla question directly from the Act, the relevant provisions would come. So there are not much of case laws which are to be discussed. So you just need to remember the sections, and then you'll be able to answer all the MCQs or descriptive type of questions. So background, friends, if you see the current environment in the country, where we see a lot of news regarding Enforcement Directorate or SFIO or fraudulent transactions happening across the various companies. And if I name few companies, not these traditional, the Kingfisher types or Satyam types, but recently we have the Jet Airways, we have the Ponzi scheme companies, we have the Carvi scam. So there are so many companies where we see that a lot of frauds have been committed, or high chances of fraud, though not proven yet. So all these now companies are under the investigation part. So investigation under what provisions, what are the powers, who can initiate the investigations, what is the scope, what is the end result of the investigation, are there any time limits, what is going to happen once the investigation is completed, who can be taken under this coverage. All this will be discussed in today's session. So the coverage would be, one is the trigger sections for inquiry, inspection, and investigation. First, we need to understand the difference between these 3 I's. Procedure for 3 I's, where how will the inquiry be conducted, inspection will be conducted, and so on, and the relevant miscellaneous provisions, which are again relevant from the exam perspective. So let us start with the first point, friends, the difference between inquiry, investigation, inspection, and investigation. Prima facie, if we see, inquiry is a very soft word, the subtle word of going further into inspection and investigation. So inquiry is just putting up a query to the company or to any person about any particular transaction or any particular information. So somebody may raise an inquiry, just trying to get certain information. Now, based on the inquiry, they may go one step ahead and they can inspect. Now, inspect what? Inspect the documents, the account books, papers. So that is the next step. So inquiry maybe not be, the review of the documents part, but inspection will lead to review of documents. And on that basis, there may be further investigation. Investigation into what? The conduct of the company, the conduct of the business of the company, conduct of the details of the transactions, conduct of the ownership of the company. So that may lead to further kind of questions which may be answered only during investigation. So the gravity increases from inquiry to investigation. So everything starts with inquiry, and then it depends upon the result of each first step, and then it can lead to further actions by the respective authorities. So the question comes in, who can start this process of inquiry, inspection, or investigation? Do we have to go step by step, or directly we can jump to investigation or inspection without doing the inquiry part? That is what we need to understand. So who can do 3I? That is many agencies. Many agencies include the ROC, the MCA or the central government through the MCA. Then there's a tribunal. And there could be certain parallel proceedings which may go on along with any inquiry or inspection which is going on. So prima facie, we will be talking about the word ROC, the central government, the tribunal, who will initiate this process of inquiry and investigation. Obviously, they may do it suo motu, or it may be based on certain kind of information, or maybe by complaint also. So there are various instances which may initiate this process. So taking an overall perspective, friends, very important. We need to have a broader view of this particular chapter. So in the exam, the question may come in, what is the role of ROC during this process of inquiry and inspection? So the ROC will come into action, into picture under these four heads of 206, 207, and 208 and 209, where the inspector will come into role again 206 to 209. So there may be the ROC or there may be an inspector. So there are two different people who can do the inquiry and the inspection part. Both can do the same process under the same section, but the person are different. Plus the inspector can come into role under section 216. Central government, 206, and then further 210, 211, and 212. And then we have 216, as we have seen in the case of inspector, and 224 also, again, a miscellaneous provision. So central government maybe not into picture under 207 to 209, but later on it may come into picture. So these are a good way to recall things, learn things, that where will central government come, where will inspector come, because the questions are framed in a tricky manner at times. So you should be clear of the role of each of the agencies who are involved in this whole process. Where will they come into picture? So we have the ROC, the inspector, and the central government. Then the tribunal, as we have seen, the tribunal may also initiate the inquiry and investigation. So they will come into picture primarily under 213, where they can give directions. And then 221 and 222, based on certain kind of information, they can initiate certain process. So tribunal also an important body, adjudicating authority, we all know, that will come into picture from 213, 221, and 222. So we have seen that there are four people coming under different parts. So let's start with the first part from 206. We have seen that 206, the ROC and the inspector, even the central government. So under 206, very important part. So inquiry is prima facie under 206. Inspection is again under section 206. And the investigation will come under 210 to 213. So again, this is again, I'm giving an holistic view that if the word inquiry comes in, then you should be able to recall 206. And inspection comes in, that is again referring to 206. But investigation is again a detailed one, but it will be covered under various parts, because investigation may be of the company or the associated companies and so on. So therefore, there are multiple sections, and the investigation may be carried out by the central government or by some agency also. So that is why this segregation is required. So all these few initial slides give you an insight, an overall insight. When you will revise, probably these slides will be helpful to recall things and maybe understand the difference between each of the sections and each of the words. So we have Rashmi Kamath. Good evening. She is logged in, and any other person who is logged in, just send a message so that I know that there are students who are live. Okay, inspection inquiry by ROC. Let us start with the first part. ROC conducting an inspection and inquiry. Now we would wonder, how would ROC come into picture? We all know that as a part of a procedure compliance part, the company has to file certain documents. So surely ROC has got a lot of information in its database. And based on that information, which is there lying at their database, on their software, on their computer, they can surely, start an inquiry process. So let us understand that process. So the first step, 206, which talks about calling for information, inspection, and conducting inquiries. Calling for information, inspection of books, and conducting inquiries by ROC, Registrar of Companies. Based on what, friends? So based on the scrutiny of any document filed by the company. As I said, a lot of documents are filed regarding shareholder, MGD 14, annual returns, or any information received by him. Now, where would this information comes in? It may come in by third-party sources. Somebody might have sent a mail information to the ROC that this company is involved in certain kind of transactions, so you may conduct an inquiry. And based on those information or scrutiny of documents, remember there are two circumstances. Document or any information. Registrar is of the opinion that any information or explanation is necessary, that it wants certain more information. He has to send a written notice. Very important, a written notice, not purely a call. He has to send a written notice to furnish in writing. Again, the reply has to be received in writing. Such information or explanation, or to produce such documents within a time frame. That means they can ask for certain kind of documents also. So it is just a notice to call for further information. Remember, it is just trying to call for further information. They have not started taking any action so far. Then once the company and the officers of the company receive this kind of notice, written notice, then they are liable to furnish the information, produce any document, whatever has been mentioned in that particular notice. Very important, friends. Whatever has been mentioned in the notice, they have to provide that information, produce any document. And please note this down. Exam relevant point. It has been asked quite frequently. Whether the past officers may be called upon by ROC to submit the required information, they can be done through a separate notice. So a notice which has been sent to the company, a separate notice will be sent to all the past officers whose records are available to provide the information or any other document if they have those documents. So there are questions which have been asked where the past officers have raised objection that because they are not working in the company, therefore they are not liable to be called. So the answer is yes, they can be called under this particular section 206. Now, once you receive that information inquiry, based on that inquiry, what can the ROC do? What can the ROC do? So this is the first step of inspection by ROC. So initially they have called for certain information. Inquiry, they've just raised an query, and based on that query, reply has come. Now comes the part of inspection by ROC. The registrar may give an additional written notice. We have seen one initial notice. Now they may raise another written notice. When, again, this is important point from exam perspective. Additional written notice when no information has been supplied by the company. Obviously, that is very natural. Anybody would raise that second notice. When you think that the information is inadequate, On the submission of the information, the ROC is satisfied that the affairs are unsatisfied and there is no full and fair statement which has been submitted by the company. These are the 4 reasons which will initiate the process of writing down the second notice. With reasons, very important, if no reasons are given, that notice is not valid. Again, these are smaller points which you have to remember, friends. The second notice has to contain the reasons why you are calling for that particular, why you're writing that second notice, and they are initiating an inspection of the documents under 4 condition. They have asked for details of information, maybe certain information regarding the purchase sale transaction or bank transaction, where you have 5 bank account and you have not supplied the 5 bank account and you have supplied only 3 bank accounts, so it is inadequate. On going through the bank account, they find that there are transactions which have happened with a Chinese company, so there may be affairs are unsatisfied. And you have not given full and fair statement of transactions, then it may lead to inspection. So 4 conditions of leading to inspection. So that is the first step, inspection under 2063. Now again, 2064 talks about inquiry by ROC. Now there is 2061, 2064, which again talks by ROC, inquiry by ROC and central government, both. When? What is the difference between 2061 and 2064? So 2064, ROC suo motu on the basis of information. Again, 2061 is about written notice. When there is a complaint to ROC, so a complaint has been filed to ROC, or the central government may give direction to ROC, or the central government by any other authority. It may not be through the ROC, it may be through an inspector, can initiate inquiry. When the business is being carried on for fraudulent and unlawful purpose. So that is on the basis of information. Third-party information. They have received a third-party information. Based on any complaint which has been filed, a written complaint has been sent to ROC that there is non-compliance of provisions of law, whatever law has been framed as per the company law. Then the company is not complying with the provisions of that law. Or grievances which have been raised by the shareholders, or even if the ROC, the grievances have not been addressed by the company. So these are the 3 conditions which may lead to an inquiry by ROC. Now 2061 was talking about based on the filing, the information which you have, documents which you have submitted to ROC. Now this is not based on the documents, this is based on certain kind of third-party information. Then the ROC may initiate an inquiry, or even the central government may give directions to ROC or by any authority. Then a written order to call for information and carry out the inquiry after ROBH. ROBH simply means reasonable opportunity to be heard to the company. So the exam question talks about, is central government eligible or authorized to conduct inquiry or not? So the answer is yes. Remember 206, remember 206, as I mentioned. Central government 2064. They are eligible or they have the right to conduct an inquiry. So before calling the company, the RSC has to inform the company of the allegation made against it by a written order. That means you have to write something, the ROC, before that. Then only you can conduct that inquiry. The central government, if it is satisfied, remember it is may, if it is satisfied the circumstances so warrant, direct to carry out the inquiry, and direct whom? The ROC. And if things are being carried out in fraudulent or unlawful purpose, then officer who is in default shall be punishable in the manner as per section 447, which we all understand is a very dreadful section containing penal and imprisonment provision. So whenever the fraud comes in, I think everybody should refer to 447. So this is the end result, this is the end result of all the inquiry which will be conducted, and then you find a fraudulent purpose, then 447 may be invoked. So 2064 is about inquiry by central government or ROC, suo motu, based on the complaint filed by someone. Now inspection by central government. Inspection by central government. Can ROC conduct an inspection? Can ROC conduct an inspection? The answer is yes, friends. Remember, when there is no sufficient information under 2063, ROC can conduct an inspection. So here, but we are talking about what? Central government conducting an inspection. 2063 talks about inspection by ROC. 2065 and 6 will talk about inspection by central government. So there is a mix of section within that, 206 section, which covers both part, inquiry and inspection. 2061, inquiry. 2063, inspection by ROC. 2064, again, it talks about inquiry by ROC and central government, suo motu on complaint. 2061 talks all about based on the documents which have been filed, and 2065 and 6 talks about inspection by central government. So, central government may direct the inspection of books of accounts by any inspector appointed by it, or authorize any statutory authority to carry out the inspection of books of accounts, maybe the ROC. So either they can appoint a separate inspector, or they can authorize any statutory authority to carry out the inspection of books of accounts. The penalties, if you have failed to furnish any information, the company or the every officer is punishable with fine, which may extend to 1 lakh rupees, and in case of continuing failure, additional fine, which may extend to 500 rupees for every default. Very simple, but then you have to remember. So 206 is an invoking section. You invoke that, I can conduct an inspection or inquiry. What is going to happen in that inspection and inquiry? Let us understand the process, the conduct of the inspection and inquiry, 207, 208, and 209, primarily 207 and 208. So one part is covered, 2061, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Central government, ROC, conducting inquiry and inspection. Inquiry and inspection. Now, how will this be conducted? Conduct of inspection and inquiry. Conduct of inspection and inquiry. So here we have the duties of the director. In case of an inspection inquiry, there are duties. Power of the registrar, and then the penal provision. So duty of the director and the officer or the employee of the company to produce and furnish such statement, information, explanation in such form as may be required by the ROC or the central government. By the ROC or the central government. Powers of the registrar or the inspector. Powers of the registrar or the inspector. Very important. Frequently asked in the exams. Make or cause to be made copies of books of account and other books and papers. First, make a copy of the books of accounts if required. Place or cause to be placed any marks of identification in such books in token of inspection have been made so that nobody can alter those books of accounts. It is verified, sealed. This is the books of account which was inspected during this process. So there is marking which is done. So either we make a copy or we place any mark. This is the power. Fine, very general power, not a problem. Along with that, there are civil power of the registrar and inspector, where they can call for production of books of account, summoning any person, attendance of the person, and inspection of any books and register and other documents of the company at any place. That's the important part. They can obviously visit the registered office, but if they find that the books or accounts are kept at some other place where the law does not permit illegally, but then yes, because of the civil power, they can visit those places and inspect those books of accounts. So there is a discovery and production of summoning and inspection. So this is general thing. I think you should standardize all these learning, these words when it comes to civil power, because this civil power is available at different point of time to different people. So it may be under SEBI, it may be under company law, it may be under FEMA Act or so on. So remember, the civil power remains same because civil power is a general power and maybe the people are different. And if you are not complying, the penalty, fine shall not be less than 25,000 rupees to 1 lakh, along with imprisonment. Remember, in the previous one, there was no imprisonment. And this one is important part, friends. Remember, one of the reasons of disqualification of director, if you're not complying or supporting this process, if convicted, then vacation of office and not eligible to hold office in any company. That means you are disqualified to be appointed as director. Very important, friends. So questions have been asked where a person has been appointed as director, but the background was that he has been convicted in one of the provisions under 207. So your linking should be that if one is convicted, then 207 prohibits holding any office in the company, therefore is not qualified to be appointed as director. That is how you need to link that disqualification in 207 part. So general provision 207 is talking about the duties of the director and the officer of the employees, powers of the registrar and the inspector. So what is going to happen? You start an inquiry, fine 206 gives you the power. 207 talks about the process. You call people, you call for information, you summon, you raise questions, you take statements from the people, you visit that place. Fine. After that, what? So after that, a report will be prepared of the inquiry and the inspection. Who is conducting the report? Remember, inquiry, the ROC or the inspector appointed by the central government. The ROC or the inspector appointed by the central government, they are conducting the inquiry and the inspection. Now they will prepare the report. Great. So report is being prepared. So based on the inquiry and inspection of the books of account, as per 207, the ROC and the inspector shall, that means it has to be done. They have to prepare this report. The final outcome of this process will be a report. Once the report is prepared, will submit his report to whom? Central government. Central government. Very important. With recommendation of further investigation or not, with reasons. If there is further investigation, then they have to recommend this with reasons. With reasons. Then government on that basis can take suitable actions, and if nothing is found serious, can close the file. If there is nothing serious, they can close the file. But if there is something serious, they can take the next step. So remember, a report will be prepared. Based on the report, the next step will be taken. So 208 closes the matter. Now 209 is further actions if required. Further actions if required. Yes, so inquiry is always made on financial statement file. Shristi, not necessarily that it is always based on the financial statement file. There are a lot of other documents which are filed, along with financial statement, and the companies keep on filing as based on the requirement. There are different filings. It may be filing of a special resolution, filing of annual returns, or filing of charge documents, or whatever. I think based on whatever in filing which you are done, it is not necessarily purely financial statement. Is it clear? Search and seizure. Now, when is the power of search and seizure again initiated? No, the report has to be submitted to the central government. Regional director is the central government. They are the people to whom the report is submitted, but actually the report has to be submitted to central government. So regional director is only the person on behalf of central government. Now, wherever the registrar or the inspector, remember, inquiry inspection can be done only by the registrar or the inspector. So till now, when they believe that the books may be destroyed, mutilated, altered, falsified, or secreted, that means they can be taken away somewhere else. Very important, frequent questions which are asked on this particular section 209. They can enter and search that place, search and seize the book. Enter, search the place, search and seize the books. Only after order of special court. This is must. So remember, there are questions which have been where they have asked, where they have mentioned that the ROC directly enters based on the information inquiry and no information was received. So they directly reach the registered office of the company and seize the books. That is not allowed. They need to have the order of special court. They need to have the order of special court. Simple one, I think, simple section till now. Nothing complicated. Very clear and plain, simple. So the complication is only section 206 because there are inquiry by ROC and inquiry by central government. And there are 2061, 2063 and 4. And then 2065 and 6 are miscellaneous provision. We'll come back to this case study questions. Let us see. Yes, a simple question. I think I have just discussed this. So, group of creditors of Mac Trading Limited makes a complaint to ROC Hyderabad alleging that the management of the company is indulging in destruction and falsification of the accounting records of the company. So, creditors have filed a complaint. Remember, creditors. The complainants request the registrar to take immediate steps to seize the records of the company so that management may not be allowed to tamper the books. Complaint was received at 10 a.m. on 1st July 2018 and ROC entered the premises at 10:30 a.m. for the search. Examine the powers of registrar to seize the books of the account. The ROC has got the power to seize the books of the account as per section 209. No doubt about it. Yes, they can enter. If they have a feeling of destroyed, mutilated, altered, falsified, they can enter, search and seize the books. But the condition is that they need to have an order of special code, where here in this case, there's no mention of the order of special code. Therefore, the ROC is not correct in that particular step. It is not allowed in the eyes of law. Is this clear? They are not allowed to seize the books. Section 210. The word is investigation. Remember, the word is investigation. So inquiry and inspection. If you go to the initial section, so inspector, central government may authorize under 206. Then the inspector may come into action. 207, the conduct part, the 208, the report part, 209, the power to search. All this can be done by the inspector. ROC, 206, inquiry and inspection, conduct, report, and search and seizure. So 207, 208, 209 remain same, both for whom? The ROC and the inspector. There's no difference. 207, 208, 209, which talks about both the ROC and the inspector, as the case may be. Only difference is 206, where the central government comes in, and ROC 2061, that is where the ROC comes in, 1 and 3, while 4 where the central government comes in. 216 will review it again. Central government we have seen, 206. Rest we will review again, 210. That is what we are studying. But that is talking about what? Investigation. Remember, we are talking about investigation. So we have seen inquiry, inspection, 206, which talks about inquiry and inspection. Done. Right? Inquiry by ROC, inquiry by central government. Both we have covered. Inquiry by ROC, inquiry by central government. Or inspection. Inspection when the documents have not been submitted or inadequate, then there is an inspection. Or the central government may authorize someone for inspection. So here, inquiry by ROC or by central government. Now we are starting with the investigation part. Any confusion here, please let me know. No questions? Great. Yes, special court. under law, we have a special code which is created only for specific purpose. So special code may sit to hear a particular and transaction or any case. So that special code is sitting only for that purpose only. So there are provisions under company law for this special code only. I think you will study, either if you're not studied, you will study in due course. So the bench sits only for specific purpose. So let us start with 210. Investigation. When central government, remember, ROC does not have power for investigation. It is only the central government which has got the power of investigation. ROC will be limited only to what? Inquiry and inspection. Inquiry and inspection. On the basis of 208, under 208, somebody has prepared a report. Remember, either the ROC or the inspector has prepared a report recommending with reasons for further investigation. So when it is mentioned in that report, obviously, central government should take an action. It is of the opinion on the basis of report under 208, which is again arising because of what? Inquiry and inspection. 208 report is prepared only after inquiry and inspection. So investigation is the final stage only after inquiry and inspection. Or even if there is no 208, there's a special resolution passed by the company. Special resolution passed by the company. Or when it is of the public interest, a listed company, a company which may have taken a loan from the banks. So when it thinks on the interest of the public, it is important to conduct the investigation, then they may order investigation into affairs of the company. When I say affairs, probably it leads to further step beyond the inspection of documents. Affairs may be why these transactions are taking place, with whom these transactions are taking place, what is the nature of goods which are being traded, purchased, sold, from where are they being purchased, where are they being sold, how the money is transferred. That is the kind of investigation. So it is mainly on the operations, the ownership, the process, people. Then there may be a possibility that the court or tribunal may order to central government. Then CG shall order investigation. Now, what is the difference? Understand. Here, if it creates an opinion on the basis of this, it may order. But if the court gives a direction, it shall. Now, the irony is when they have formed an opinion, so even after forming an opinion, is there a possibility they may order an investigation? So in general, my opinion says that no, there should not be any possibility of the word may. But there might be certain very extreme circumstances where even if they think the report is fair enough and they think that it does not require, therefore the word may has been given. But generally, I think when they have created an opinion, then there may not be a requirement of May. But anyway, you need to know that there's a difference, that on the basis of this, the opinion may be created and it may order investigation into affairs of the company. But if the direction of court is coming, from where this direction of court will come in, we'll see. We'll see the powers of tribunal and we'll refer to those powers, and based on those powers, probably the tribunal may order the investigation part. Now remember, there may be a special resolution. And if the court is giving an order based on certain complaints, so if the person is submitting a complaint, then they have to submit 25,000. It will be refunded if investigation results in prosecution. So people who are submitting a complaint, that amount has to be deposited. Now, why this amount? Obviously, because there should not be any frivolous complaint just to hinder or hinder the process or false complaint. So based on this, based on the turnover criteria, you have to deposit that security amount, which is quite normal. So 210 talks about investigation under 3 conditions. 3? No, 4. Now, what is that 4? These are the 3. May, but 4th is on the order of tribunal. That is the 4th condition. On the order of tribunal, then they shall order the investigation part. Why itself want to be investigated by CG? I did not get your question, Srishti. Why itself means what? If you can further elaborate on that query. Okay, shareholders of hide and seek are not satisfied about the performance of the company. That is very natural. Every shareholder is never satisfied about the performance of the company. But anyway, there might be certain other reasons. It is suspected as some activities being run in the name of company and not in the interest of the company or its members. 101 out of 500 shareholders of the company have made an application to CG to appoint an inspector to carry out an investigation and find out the true picture, whether the shareholder application will be accepted or not. So what is the answer? Remember, shareholders may approach, not a problem. They have got every right to make a complaint. But then there should be some advisor to that shareholder, advisor like you, who should tell them that fine, if there are 500 shareholders and if 100 of you go, which constitutes only 20%, is that sufficient enough to file a complaint? The answer is no. Then what is the procedure? You need to tell them, please get a special resolution approved by the company in the meeting. And based on that special resolution, which is approved by giving sufficient proof that SSR was passed, thereafter your complaint would be valid. So here in this situation, it is only what 20%, not sufficient enough. So the complaint is liable to be rejected. So 210 is inspection by central government. So then comes the process of serious frauds. Now, what is serious fraud? That has not been defined. But generally, we can understand which are of high magnitude, where the amount involved is huge. The central government felt that probably they are not equipped. The ROC office or the inspectors within their offices are not sufficient to carry out those investigations, because there are certain frauds which may involve or which may require more detailed understanding of the case. Therefore, the central government thought of creating an agency or office known as SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, to investigate frauds relating to the company. So 211 gives the power to the government to establish this SFIO office. And since the institution of this particular office, we have seen many cases falling under this office, and a lot of actions are taken by SFI office, and steps based on the actions taken, there are actions taken by the central government. So very powerful agency, similar to what we have see as in the case of CBI or any other agency. So very powerful agency as of today. Many people are employed or based on contract basis. Even a lot of chartered accountants are working under SFI office. Obviously, because it leads to financial frauds. So we need chartered accountants to understand the whole world of these transactions, financial transactions. Therefore, we have seen a lot of CAs being involved in this whole process. From exam perspective, friends, SFIO has two parts, 211 and 212. 211 will talk about more of the administrative structure of this SFIO. You need to go through it. You never know what kind of questions which may come in the exams. And the second part is 212, which talks about when the cases will be referred to SFIO, what is the reason, and how this process will be conducted. So obviously, SFIO will be headed by a director and consist of such number of experts from the following field, and the field is huge. The banking, financial, costing, management, cyber forensic, investigations, law, capital, forensic, taxation, and so on. So a lot of experts are involved. So it is a conglomerate, a lot of high educated people with a lot of brains to understand this complex world of frauds being committed in this corporate world and white-collar crimes. So not going into the administrative structure that you can obviously refer and study as per the module. Let us understand the technicalities of 212, that when this investigation will be carried on. Shristi, is not about company itself by special resolution, it's by the shareholders. When the shareholders feel that the management, we all know that the management and shareholders may be different. So first thing what you need to understand is to clear this, that not necessarily that shareholders are the owners of they are the management. So there are companies which are run professionally. So there are management who owns a very minority stake in the ownership. So there are shareholders which are major shareholders, public shareholders, so they may pass a special resolution. Is it clear? So 212 investigation. Let us see. So when the central government feel that the investigation should be done by SFIO, then it will order and assign its investigation to SFIO. But on what criteria? On what criteria, friends? That is important. That is important. So on the receipt of report of 208, on SR by members, or it is in public interest, or see, these 3 points were very common. Very common, which we have seen. but requirement from department of any central government or state government. So any department of central government or state government, any other department, Home Ministry has got certain kind of information. There's something fishy which is going on between the companies having directors of China. They've got certain kind of information. Or Ministry of External Affairs. Or let's say defense has got certain kind of information that there's a company which is acting against the security of the company. So any information which may come from other department of the central government, even the state government, then central government may by order, it will release an order and assign the investigation into affairs of the company, good, to the SFO. Then once it does that, very important, once it does that, no other agency will initiate an investigation and already initiated, then it will stop and not proceed. Then it will stop, not proceed. They will stop and not proceed with the matter. Very important. So remember this point, all other actions will be stopped or halted. The SFIO, after conducting this investigation, will give a report to the central government. Fine, obviously everything will be given to central government. All the officers, employees will have to provide information as required by office SFIO. Offences covered under 447 in this act shall be cognizable, remember, and no person accused of any offence shall be released on bail. You all understand cognizable word. That means there is no bail which is given. Unless, so this is what is asked in the exam. So these are acts which are cognizable. Unless the opportunity is given to the public prosecutor to oppose such bail. If by chance any bail is given by any of reason which you don't know, then opportunity has to be given to the public prosecutor to oppose that. Then court is satisfied that reasonable ground exists to prove that a person is not guilty. So you need to give an opportunity where the court is getting satisfied, yes, there reasonable ground exists that a person is not guilty, but then even then you have to give an opportunity to the public prosecutor to oppose that particular judgment or step by the court. The special court, if the matter goes to the special court, it may not take cognizance except on a complaint filed by Director SFIO or any other person authorized by central government. The director has got the power to arrest any person guilty of offence under 447, and they may be taken to judicial magistrate within 24 hours. And based on the report of investigation, the central government may initiate prosecution against all the people who have been found guilty under the report. So these are certain miscellaneous provisions under SFIO. So what we need to remember, first thing, when will the investigations be initiated? So this is, remember, important point. Second point important, all further proceedings will come to a standstill. Then this point is also important, that they are cognizable and no person accused of any offense shall be released on bail. But if is not guilty, then opportunity to public prosecutor will be given to oppose. So these are important points regarding the SFIO part. This is again important, where person who can be released on bail. These are specific situations where person who can be released on bail if he is of 16 years of age, under 16 years of age, is a woman or sick or not well, then on the direction of special court. Remember, all these charges are first taken to special court. Special court will not take cognizance except on complaint by a director or any other person authorized by central government. Otherwise, special court will never entertain any person. So bail may be granted under these three situations. This is an exam question. All these small exceptions are quite relevant. Because see, Bonnie, when you are asking the why stop other agencies, the reason is very clear. If other agencies are also involved, there will be a lot of pressure on the company or the officers of the company that they will not be able to face two agencies at the same time. And the end process is obviously the same. The end result is same, that they need to be prosecuted. The process adopted by other agencies may be different, but the end result is same. So therefore, because an SFIO is again of the same category as a CBI, as I mentioned, so therefore the other process comes to a standstill. Okay, let us answer a few MCQ-based questions and see whether you have been able to grasp those points. I think it's a simple one. Offences covered under 447 of the Act shall be cognizable and no person shall be released on bail, however, under direction of special court. Following person may be released on bail under the age of 16, a woman, sick or infirm person, any of the above. So obviously answered in any one of the above. Simple one. SFIO shall submit the investigation report to whom? We all know it's quite simple. It will never submit a report to ROC or the MC or the special court. The report will be submitted to the central government. Who will create SFIO? It has already been done, so never mind. Central government will create SFIO by notification, which has already been done. Forget it. Right. Again, a scenario-based question. Let us see, evaluate this. Hope you will be able to answer it. So, group of shareholders of FMG Limited made a complaint to the ROC that the business of the company is being carried on for unlawful and fraudulent purpose, and they file an application to inquire into the affairs of the company, referring to analyze the provisions of the Companies Act, decide whether the ROC has the power to order an inquiry into the affairs of the company, if yes, state the procedure to be followed by ROC, and whether the inquiry should be pursued by ROC in case the complaint is withdrawn by the same group of shareholders subsequent to the order for inquiry. So, first two I think are very simple. Third one is a bit a tricky one, where once you have filed a complaint and then you want to withdraw a complaint, whether the ROC will carry the inquiry or not. I think we have not discussed this, and nobody has, nowhere it has been mentioned in the law what is going to happen if this particular situation comes in. You know, that is the problem with laws. that they do not envisage the possible situations which may arise because of a particular transaction or process or a step. And therefore, the dispute and the confusion arises. And therefore, we require experts to interpret. We need to have courts to interpret. Probably with each kind of law section provision, there should be FAQs, which should further explain that what do we mean by this, what is going to happen, scenario A, B, C, D, so that, all these disputes do not arise and we don't waste so much of time in the court. But anyway, it has not been done. So coming back to this question, whether the ROC has the power to order for an inquiry into the affairs of the company, obviously, because you have received a complaint, which section, friends, we need to refer to 206. Remember, inquiry is 206, no 210. 206 is about inquiry. And he should be satisfied, very important. But then, the inquiry will only be done after ROBH. Remember the word ROBH? So two things which you have to remember. First, complaint, fine, receive a complaint. Good. Can ROC take a step? Yes, it can take a step. Only when it is satisfied. So first you need to mention the word. If he is satisfied. And second, reasonable opportunity is given. That is 2064. Remember. 2061 was what? Based on the documents which have been filed, majorly. He calls for written notice, calls for information. 2064, ROC or the central government, both. 2063, inspection. So what is the step to be followed? Remember, step followed is very simple. It will write a notice. Any information which is required, it will write a notice that please give this information, writing an information explanation. Now the situation is whether the inquiry will be withdrawn. The answer is no. The inquiry can be carried on. Even if the complaint is withdrawn. So the ROC can carry on the inquiry. It does not have to stop the inquiry. So it is very important. Remember, once the inquiry is initiated, the law does not say that you need to withdraw that inquiry. Report will be prepared. That is the final outcome. And even if the ROC is not taking action, central government may be satisfied, direct the registrar to carry out the inquiry under 2064. Remember, 2064 gives power to the ROC as well as to the central government. Both can initiate inquiry. The ROC has received a complaint from a group of creditors in order to prevent unearthing of their embezzlement of company's funds, are engaged in falsification and destruction of the accounting books of record. The complainants urge the registrar seize the accounting books so that directors may not be able to tamper the same. Can the registrar do that? Yes, the answer is yes. We know that 209 gives the power to the registrar. Whenever you feel that there's destroyed, mutilated, altered, falsified, secreted, then they can seize the books after taking the approval of the special court. Very simple. Now, very important, which probably I missed out during that explanation of section. If you are seizing the books and taking the books, then the ROC shall return the books to the company within 180 days of the seizure. Very important, relevant from exam perspective, friends. Relevant from exam perspective. They have to they have to return the books within 180 days. After returning, can they call back the books? The answer is yes, the ROC can call back the books for further 180 days by making an order in writing. Very important. There are questions which have been asked. Can the ROC further call back the books? The answer is yes, they can call it for further 180 days. Is this clear? By making an order in writing. Next. Mrs. Preeti, a lady aged about 32 years, managing director of Grow More Plantation, has been arrested for an offence covered under 447 of Companies Act. On a complaint made by Director SFIO under 212, SFIO comes under picture 212. Good. So Director SFIO has made a complaint and the special court hears that complaint. Mrs. Preeti seeks your legal advice as to the conditions under which she can be released on bail and the role of special court in this regard. So we have first what you need to write that any offence under 447 is shall be cognizable and no bail shall be granted. No bail shall be granted. Until unless the public prosecutor has been given an opportunity to oppose the application for such release, and where the public prosecutor opposes the application, the court is satisfied that there are reasonable grounds, is not guilty, and is not likely to commit any offence while on bail. So the court thinks leave him, there's no such problem with this person, then they may release on the bail. But before that, the public prosecutor has to be given an opportunity. Further, we understand that a person who is a woman, then they may be released on bail. But only when the special court directs. Remember, only when the special court directs. Any questions on this? No. It is required. It is required. Two one three, very important. 213 is a very important one. Where the role of tribunal comes in. So the first time in the picture, there's an entry of the boss, the adjudicating authority, the tribunal. The tribunal comes into picture. So tribunal on an application by at least 100 members or 1/10 of the total voting power in case of a company having share capital, or 1/5 of the members, company having no share capital, then along with necessary evidence. These shareholders, 100 members, have given necessary evidence and an application has been filed at tribunal. Or on an application by other person like creditors, suggesting that the business of the company are conducted in a fraudulent manner, or person concerned information or management are not carrying out the affairs of the company in a proper manner, or there's an inadequate information which is supplied to members, including calculation of managerial remuneration, then they can file an application. They can file an application to tribunal. So two people, remember friends, who the shareholders or creditors. Under which situations? These are the three situations. These are the three situations common to both the members as well as creditors. So once the application is filed, where the business is being conducted to defraud the creditors or the members, where the person concerned in the formation or management are guilty of fraud and misfeasance, then the tribunal may give an direction to central government to investigate. So in exam, the question comes in, friends. Does the tribunal have the power to start investigation? Does the tribunal have the power to start investigation? So answer is yes. Answer is yes. Where they have the power based on the application which has been filed. Application can be filed by the members or the creditors based on three scenarios. Then based on the hearing, the NCLT may give direction to the central government to investigate the affairs. And once the investigation starts, and if it is proved that either of these conditions exist, 447 may apply. 447 may apply. So very simple section, friends, 213, not complicated, but yes, quite relevant, because if you see the overall context, tribunal comes into the picture first time. That means, suppose I have filed a complaint, for example, to ROC. ROC does not take any action as a shareholder. Then we file a complaint to central government. The central government does not take any action because I have not passed a special resolution. But here there are 100 members. So if I have 100 members coming together, I can directly apply to tribunal without going to ROC or to central government. Or even if I went to ROC or central government, no steps have been taken, I can directly apply to tribunal, provided I prove it with evidence of these situations that business is being conducted to defraud us, the members or the creditors, so on. So we have seen a few applications which are filed under this section at tribunal, and the hearing keeps on going. So 213 is, let's say, a resort to the shareholders or to the creditors if they are not heard by the ROC. If they are not heard by the ROC. Let us see. Simple question. Majority of the board of directors have realized that some of the business activities are carried out in the name of the company and not in the interest of their company or its members. They want the company should make an application to the NCLT to appoint an inspector to carry out the investigation and find out the whole truth. Explain the steps to be taken. So can LCAT appoint an inspector? The answer is no. But they can give order to the central government to appoint an inspector, right? So directly they will not do that. They will give direction to the central government. Now, when will NCLT give it? Obviously, with the minimum criteria to be fulfilled by the number of shareholders, they need to file an application. So what we need to write to refer 213. Then once the application is made and application is admitted, then the NCLT may give in direction. So you need to write down 213, giving the conditions, the 3 conditions, along with evidence. Then they may order. So 213 is very clear, directly filing an application. Now this whole process of investigation, inquiry, involves a bit of cost. Now, who will bear this cost? So where an investigation is carried out by central government under 210, 213, based on the application of whom? The shareholders or the creditors. Then the law says that they may require the applicant to give such security not exceeding 25,000 for payment and cost and expenses of the investigation. And if it results in prosecution, the amount will be refunded. So not at all a complicated one. And 215 talks about that no body, corporate or other association shall be appointed as an inspector. No body corporate shall be appointed as an inspector. So it has to be an individual who is appointed as an inspector. So again, a simple one, not at all a complicated. So 214 and 215 are simple sections, not to be remembered. You can ignore it from the exam perspective. Now we come to 216. 216. Again, it talks about investigation. So 212 talks about investigation. 213 talks about investigation. 212 talks about investigation. 213 talks about investigation. 210 talks about investigation. 210 central government. 212 by SFIO conducting an investigation, and 213 tribunal giving an order to investigate. So 210, 212, and 213 talks about investigation. 216 also talks about investigation. Now, going back to our original slide, friends, just trying to recall about investigation. So now it is picture clear. 210 is investigation by central government based on the application received, special resolution by shareholders. Remember that section. 212, when the central government passes on that investigation to SFIO. The investigation is being carried on, but it passes on to SFIO. 213, NCLT made on the basis of the application by shareholders and creditors. So 210, 213, very clear. We should know the difference. When will 210 crop up? When will 213 pop up? We should know the difference. In exam, this picture should be very clear. We have done away with inquiry inspection 206. So when you talk about inquiry inspection, just limit yourself to 206. And then the process from 207 to 209. When we are talking about investigation, just remember 210 and 213. 210 central government, 213 by tribunal. Now here comes an important section, which is an add-on section on investigation under 216. So from here onwards, there are specific sections which are asked in the exams quite frequently. Very small section. So 216. Investigation of ownership of the company. Quite relevant in the current context if you see what is happening with respect to all those Chinese companies where a lot of investigations are being carried on, where they need to find out the true person who have financial interest in the success or failure of the company, or have been able to control the policies of the company. Or even based on the direction of tribunal under 213. So the central government may on its own or based on the direction given by the tribunal regarding the investigation with respect to the membership of the company. Who is the actual owner? So here the investigation is very specific to find out the actual owner. So here it requires a lot of understanding of the complex relationship of the ownership, that who are the shareholders, who are the directors. The shareholders belong to whom they are related. Are they shareholders in another company? Who are the directors? Are the directors related from the promoters? And then the linkages, or the shareholders are company, then the company, who owns that company, who are the directors and shareholders in that company, if there's a if the companies are the shareholders in that other company also. So that linkage is delinked, searched, scrutinized to find out who is that individual who is owning that company through chain or layer of investments. So for that, we are trying to carry out that investigations. Now remember, why is it required? It is not required that a complaint has been filed for this company. It is required to understand the gravity or the people who are involved in this whole fraud, if it is being committed. To locate that person. That is why a specific direction or agenda is given to find out the ownership part. And this power is given under 216 to the inspector. So they may give the tenure that you may go find out 10 years to find out the ownership of the company. What are the matters to be covered? So that may be given as a direction to the people, to the inspector. So 216 is very important, friends, understanding the beneficial ownership of the company. Now, during this process of investigation, there may be certain restrictions on the securities issued or to be issued by the company. You know, if you're trying to find out the ownership of the company, then there may be a scenario where the company might be issuing further shares to hide something, to dilute the existing shareholders. So all those restrictions can be imposed during investigation, and the NCLT can impose certain restrictions up to 3 years. And if the prohibition is violated, then the officer may be defaulted and liable for punishment of fine and imprisonment. And remember, this provision may apply to foreign company, because as we know, if you want to find out the owner, we need to go into details and find out that why that foreign company was established, who is the actual owner of that foreign company. That is why I said SFIO or any other agency are involved in these transactions to verify this and to do this investigation, because it involves a lot of complexity and reaching out to other government also. So directions may be given, tenure may be given, matter to be covered, any other matter. Plus, this is also important that no further security can be issued, and NCLT may give a direction of restrictions up to 3 years. Which of the following person can be appointed as inspector? Individual, we have seen. No other person can be appointed as inspector. So this is an MCQ based on the punishment part. So 217, we are still to cover 217, so I'm ignoring that. So the expenses first will be borne by the central government, remember. Under 214, it shall be first be borne by the central government, and 25,000 will be taken as deposit. Now, during investigation, there may be a scenario, friends. During investigation, there may be a scenario where the employees who are trying to support the agencies, they may face situation of resignation letters being given to them, or them being sacked by the company because they are supporting the agencies. So is there any provision which talks about protection of these employees during investigation? If they are helping in the inquiry process, can we suspend the CFO or the KMPs? Can the management suspend them? So 218 talks about the protection of employees. Again, friends, remember 216, a specific section. 218, a very specific section. So you should be able to remember this, because in exams, what we have seen, that questions are asked from these 1 sections individually, which are very specific and out of the way. So till 213, which is very generic, 213 is again different because it's an investigation by an NCLT. But till 210, 12, it is very standard. But 213 onwards, these are specific independent sections, which talks about specific transaction area. obviously we need to look from the other angle also. So 218. So during investigation of affairs of the company or any other body, corporate or any other person or any person under section 210, 212, 213 or section 219 or any member under 216, 219 we have still to study. But we know that investigations, whenever the word investigation, remember you need to write down 4 sections, 210, 212, 213 and 216. By standard, whenever the investigations are being carried out in the affairs of the company or any other body, corporate or any other person, standard line, and remember these 4 sections. And then such company, body, corporate propose to discharge or suspend any employee, punish him by way of dismissal or removal, change his terms of employee to his disadvantage, you reduce his salary, you reduce his bonus, you take away the perquisites, then you need to take a prior approval of tribunal before proposing this action. So you will apply to the tribunal. Very good. The tribunal will raise his objection if any by post. Then that means they will send a letter that it is not allowed. And if there is no objection from tribunal within 30 days, the company or the body corporate may proceed with the action. And if there's an objection by the tribunal, they can further go to the NCLAT. The person who is trying to change the person, then they can go to NCLAT for the same. So this is an important point, friends. Tribunal can raise an objection and they have to communicate that objection by post. This is relevant. So this is the protection which is being granted to the employees. Now, here, remember, there's no role of the employee which is approaching the tribunal. The company which proposes to discharge, they will take a prior approval. So they are sending, writing down to tribunal that I'm doing this. So nowhere the employees has the right, but can the employees raise an objection to this? Can employees put an application that this is happening? Is it possible? Well, obviously they can put a point to tribunal 213 and raise certain points and get some directions issued that why this is happening. So that's again, a point to be considered always. And there are NCLT rules also. So if you see when the tribunal comes into picture, there is an NCLT rules. So we need to see whether in NCLT rules, whether the NCLT has a power to decide on certain matters. So I've seen in certain cases at NCLT, not with respect to 213 or 216 or 218, I'm talking in general, where if there is no specific provision which is mentioned under any law, especially let's say in IBC or company law, then we can file an application at NCLT under certain rule where we can ask the NCLT to exercise its power under those rules of NCLT to issue directions. No, tenure is not about 180 days. Shishti, I think tenure talks about the period through it can be completed. No, 216 can come into picture not only when NCLT says that. Again, because there are a few questions on 216, just going back to 216, where the central government also on its own, not necessarily NCLT. NCLT can come into picture under 213. They can give directions under 213. But central government also can do it on its own. So there are two angles for the ownership. One is the central government on its own, or if the tribunal gives them direction, under both the scenario. Is it clear, Boni? And so let's take one small case study, and then we'll take a break. Mr. Atul is an employee of the company, and investigation is going on under the provisions of Companies Act. Company wants to terminate the employee on the ground of investigation is going against him. They have filed the application to tribunal for approval of termination. Company has not received any reply from tribunal within 30 days. The company considered it as a deemed approval and terminated Mr. Atul. Is the contention of company being valid on law? What is the remedy available to Mr. Atul? What is remedy available to Mr. Atul if reply to tribunal has been received within 30 days of application? Okay, so 218 clearly says that they have to take a prior approval. So they file an approval application, and the NCLT, if any objection, has to raise an objection within 30 days. And if there's an objection, then the company has the right to file an appeal at NCLAT. So here in this case, because there is no approval and no reply received from tribunal, so company is right in terminating the Mr. Atul. So under this scenario, does Mr. Atul has got any right? I think there's no such option given under 218, the option to the employee to raise and point at tribunal or against the company, because the law is very clear that within 30 days, if no objection, then they have a right. And here, if there's, because there's no objection which is raised by the tribunal, therefore that person does not have any right to appeal, approach the appellate tribunal also. So remember, because there is no such reply received, so all doors are closed. So if there's a reply which has been received or objection by the NCLT, then Mr. Atul can refer it to the NCLAT. I hope this is clear. Very simple one. Let's take up another one. So Creative Limited, the company wanted to suspend Mr. Z during the pendency of an investigation. The company approached the tribunal on 3rd January 2017 for the proposed action. The company on 15 February passed an order of suspension without waiting for order of the tribunal comment upon the action. So application was filed on 3rd January, 30 days, that means by 3rd February or 4th February, even 3rd February, they should have received the order or objection from the NCLAT. Yes, Boni, the CG will try to find out the ownership of the company. As I said, there are scenarios where practical scenario, let's say the examples where in the current context, there are a lot of fintech companies which have been given loan, and all these loan giving companies where the actual ownership is not the Indian people, where the money is being transferred or funded by Chinese people. So to find out who is the actual owner, the investigation may be carried on. So the employees may be small people or the drivers or small working people out here, along with one foreign national. Again, that one foreign national is again a very small person who is working in that company as a driver or so. So in that scenario, central government may find out the ownership of the company to find out the fraud which is being committed. So taking this example, friends, because 30 days has passed by and there's no reply received by the company, by tribunal, therefore the company may be right in taking the proposed action of suspending that person. Okay, so we take a short break, and after the short break, we again resume the class. Just let me see if any. Okay. So no queries. So we have covered, friends, till 218. 206 to 218, about 12 sections, plain vanilla sections. And as I said, questions will be asked from 2160 to 228, which are specific individual sections, and then 213. Rest 206 is a complicated one. So if you cover from 210 to 228, it is quite easy. 207, 8, 9 are more procedural part. You can refer. And the other part is 206. So if you break this into these, if you break this chapter into these three parts, then recalling those concepts will be easy. That 206, 207 to 209 or 210, and then from 212 to 229, 228. So 219, friends. 219 talks about investigation into affairs of related company. Very important. Now, 216 was talking about investigation into ownership. 219 is talking about investigation into affairs of related company. So two different aspects. Both are talking about investigation. Now, what was 210, 212 talking about investigation into what? It was talking about investigation into affairs of the company, which was a target company, subject company. Here we are talking about investigation of related companies. That's important. So I hope you understand the difference now. Now, when will this section be invoked, triggered? So if during an investigation in 210, 212, or when NCLT gives direction under 213, an inspector is appointed and it thinks to investigate the affairs of any other body corporate which is or has been subsidiary plus subsidiary of its holding company, any other body corporate which is managed by managing director, manager of the company under investigation, any other body corporate accustomed to act as per the instruction of the director of such company under investigation, any person which has or has been MD, manager of employee of such company. So here investigating the affairs of other company, plus we can investigate the MD or the manager of the person of the such company. Then the investigation may be carried on the basis of prior approval of the central government. Prior approval of the central government. So this is to basically, when during an investigation find out that there are other companies which are the subsidiary, whether the company is under same management or there's a control over other companies by virtue of shareholding, or when you have actually done an investigation under 216 and you find that the other company, on the face, the owners are different, but actually the owners are the owners of this company, which is subject to investigation, then you can very well apply to the central government, take a prior approval and investigate into the affairs of those body corporate. Seizure of documents by inspector. Seizure of documents by inspector. Now, there was another section which talks about the seizure, search and seizure, 180 days. And beyond 180 days, it has to return it within 180 days, and further it can extend it to 180 days. Remember, prior approval of special code was required. So if during course of investigation, reasonable inspector has reasonable ground to believe that book paper relating to company, managing director, manager, or any other body corporate or other body corporate. Which body corporate under 219? You understand? If under 219 there were other companies. And when he feels that the book paper is likely to be destroyed, altered, mutilated, secreted, then he may enter any such place where these books are kept. No permission is required. Remember, friends, here there is no permission which is required. Seize them after allowing the copy to company till completion of investigation, and he can return those books after making a copy. Now the question may come in, what is the difference between this seizure and 209 seizure? What is the difference? Remember that 209 was arising because of inquiry and inspection. This is arising because of investigation. So there are two different things. Now, does an inquiry and inspection lead to investigation? Not always. Not always. There may be a direct provision of leading to investigation also. Without conducting an inquiry and inspection, there may be investigation directly by order of Tribunal 213, by an application made by the shareholders, a special resolution 210, or by virtue of section 219, or by virtue of section 216, investigation into the ownership. You understand? It is not necessary to go through the process of 206 to get into investigation. So that is the first difference. Second difference, no prior approval there. In that case, the prior approval of special code was required. You got my point? That was the second difference. That is the second difference. The third difference is there the maximum period was 180. Here it is till the completion of investigation. Till the completion of investigation. I hope it is clear the difference between 209 and 220. 209 and 220. So remember, in an exam, the question will be, what are the powers of the inspector for search and seizure during investigation? So when this word investigation, please remember 220. During inspection, 209. Differences in powers, friends. Remember, don't get confused. Very clear. Further, we have another section of 221. So 211, 219, 220 was talking about search and seizure of books and accounts. Now here we are talking of freezing of assets of the company on inquiry and investigation. We'll freeze the assets. 221. When will this happen? When will 221 happen? I hope this is clear. Difference. Now 219, 220, 221, these are all some similar kind of processes. Seizure of books, freezing of asset, all during investigation. 216, investigation in ownership. 219, investigation into affairs of other companies. So these are separate independent sections which you can learn easily. So here, who will freeze? Where the inspector? No, he does not have that much right to freeze. So tribunal may, upon reference by central government in connection with inquiry investigation into affairs of the company, based on the complaint by number of members as prescribed under section 244, which talks about a particular number of people, shareholders who can apply, or complaint by creditors having outstanding of 1 lakh or more. Now this is again very specific. Again very specific. A new part. Section of creditors outstanding of 1 lakh or more. So that means you need to remember creditors having specific balances of 1 lakh or more. This is not, given on any other section. Not given in any other section. In addition, the complaint may also be lodged by any other person, including employees, having reasonable ground to believe that the removal, disposal, transfer of assets is likely to take place, which may be prejudicial for the interest of the company, shareholder, and creditors in public interest. The tribunal may direct no such transfer, disposal, removal up to 3 years. So remember, we can freeze the assets up to how much years? No such transaction of removal can take place up to 3 years. Up to 3 years. So tribunal may, first by central government, with respect to an inquiry, complaint by number of members as prescribed under 244. How many are prescribed? Again, I think the prescribed is under 244. Again, operation and mismanagement, it talks about 100 members or 1/10 of total number of members. I think that is the scenario which we have seen in earlier section also, where when you have to go to tribunal, I think 100 members of 1/10 can approach the tribunal under 213. Same number of people may file a complaint or complaint by creditors having outstanding of 1 lakh or more. Then the asset transfer may be freezed up to maximum of 3 years, because it is assumed that 3 years the decisions or the findings may come out, and then the steps may be taken by the respective authorities. If there's any contravention by the company, minimum 1 lakh, maximum 25 lakhs, officer in default, imprisonment up to 3 years or both, penalty of 50,000 or 5 lakhs. So specific penalties have been given if you are not complying with this freezing of asset direction by NCLT. 222, imposition of restriction on securities now. Now, this is again another restriction. There was a freezing of asset on the transfer of asset up to 3 years. Now, this is an imposition of restriction on the securities, shares. Now, let us see what does this 222 relates to. So 221 and 222 are specific, talking about the powers of tribunal. Remember, so when the question comes in exams, what are the powers of tribunal under inspection and investigation? So 213, remember that power of tribunal, right? 216, investigating the ownership of the company. 221, freezing of assets. 222, restrictions on the transfer of securities. So wherever it appears to the tribunal in connection with an investigation at 216 or on a complaint made by any person in this behalf, any person, that there is a good reason to find out the relevant facts about any security issued or to be issued by the company, and the tribunal is of the opinion that such fact cannot be found out unless restrictions are imposed. So they need to find out certain facts about securities, the ownership, the amount, why it was issued, from where did the funds come in, to whom it was transferred, from where it was purchased. Then the tribunal may order that the securities will be subject to such restrictions. There is no such clear-cut what restrictions, but restrictions may be with respect to the transfer of shares for such period not exceeding 3 years. So in both cases, 221 and 222, the period is 3 years. There, it was very specific of freezing of assets not to be disposed of. Here again, such restrictions as it deemed fit. Again, 221 talks about force situation. And it talks about if I want to carry out an investigation into ownership or a complaint made by any person. Here, complaint made by a number of member or creators. And here it is by any person. Remember, complaint by any person. There it is only by members and the creators. Here it is complaint by any person. Freezing of assets, Shristi, means you take the position, not the ownership position. You say that the assets will not move. That is the freezing. When you say statue, you freeze. That means the asset will not move from that place. That is freezing of asset. Yes, individually 1 lakh. So if any creditor wants to file an application, he should have an outstanding of 1 lakh more, not clubbed together. That will be maybe a very small number if clubbing is allowed. So friends, when you enter into the practical world, you'll find that there are multi-layer companies, 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer, specific beneficial ownership, significant beneficial ownership concept is there to find out the real owner. That is why all these freezing or restrictions are imposed on the transfer of shares. Again, the penal provisions apply both in same way, except for this part, which talks about imprisonment up to 3 years. It talks about 6 months. Rest, I think, 50,000, 25,000. So here there is difference. In freezing of asset, the penal consequences is high, while in restrictions, the penal consequences is low. I always wonder that why don't they make this penal provisions uniform with respect to the degree of default? But I don't know. It has not been done. Whether you take this law or any other law. So let us take this case study. So Remital Pharma over the years enjoys a high reputation in the market with general reserves more than 10 times the paid-up capital. There is a serious apprehension of cornering the share of the company by a group of unscrupulous persons likely to result in a change in the board of directors, which may be prejudicial to the public interest. The company seeks your advice how it can block the transfer of shares under the provisions of Companies Act. Now, blocking of shares under the provisions of Companies Act, is there any investigation being carried on? No mention about that. Anyway, so under 222, where NCLT is of the opinion or they want to find out the relevant facts of any security issued or to be issued, and they cannot find the fact unless they impose restrictions, then the tribunal may order restrictions. So, first thing is that a complaint has to be filed by any person. So the management may file a complaint. But my question is here, whether any investigation is being carried on or not. So here, there's no such being investigation which is carried on. So I believe in connection with any investigation or on a complaint. So I believe that if there's a complaint, because this particular provision is coming under this chapter of investigation and inspection, my personal thought is that there should be a precursor to this complaint. Precursor is certain kind of investigation. 222 cannot be termed as an independent section where any person can file a complaint with respect to any restriction on securities, whether investigation is carried on or not. That is my purely thought, but as per the standard answer, they have said that yes, they can file a complaint and the NCLT may give the direction. So thought is that in connection with any investigation, anyway, or on a complaint, purely on a complaint. Coming to 223, report, inspector report. Now, is there any other report which we have studied? Yes, remember friends, 208 was another such report which was subsequent to any inquiry and inspection. So 223 is about inspector report after investigation. After investigation. So difference first is that was because of inquiry and inspection. Second here is because of investigation. The second difference, submission of interim report. So there might be a possibility of interim report. No such word was mentioned in 208 about any interim report. Interim report may only be given if so directed by the central government. And on the conclusion, a final report will be given. But there, in 208, there is always a final report. Report has to be in writing or printed as the central government may direct. Now, as a party, as you are one of the party who has been subject to this report, inquiry, or you may have felt the heat. Maybe you might have been disqualified because you have been convicted. Remember, disqualification. If you are convicted, then you may be disqualified to be director. So you are a aggrieved party. But this report mentions that there is no such default. So you need to apply to the tribunal, or you may want to go to the law and ask them and tell the court that, see, this report is mentioning that I am not committed in default, but then still I have been disqualified. Can you cast for this report? The answer is yes. A copy of the above report may be obtained by making an application with respect to the central government. Plus, do ensure that the report shall be authenticated either by the seal of the company whose affairs have been investigated or by the public officer. So you can very well call for the report and prove it as evidence in favor of you. Now, what is the final outcome of this report? What is the final whole scenario once the investigation is done? What is going to happen? So once the investigation is done, there may be various scenarios. Very important. 224. Actions to be taken in pursuance of inspector report. Remember 223 and 208. So there's a comparison. Remember 209, 220. There's a comparison. Remember 210 investigation by central government, 213 investigation by tribunal. There is a comparison. Remember 221 and 222 freezing of asset and restrictions on securities. There is a comparison. Remember 216 and 219 investigation into the ownership and investigation into affairs of related company. Make it in pairs so that it is easier for you to remember. So let us see the actions to be taken in pursuance of the report. First thing, the first action. On the basis of report of under section 223, if a person appears to be guilty of offence for which is criminally liable, the central government may prosecute such person for the offence and shall be duty of all the officers and other employees of the company or body corporate to assist in connection with the prosecution. If a person has been found guilty of offence, prosecution proceedings will be carried on for which is criminally liable. So first thing, you catch hold of the person. Second, filing of petition by central government, by person authorized by central government. Which petition, where I have to file that petition, we'll see. Third is initiation of winding up suo motu by the central government. You initiate a winding up process, 271. And fourth, the fraud has been committed. Let us see. First, which we have cleared. Second, let us see. Third, let us see. Fourth, let us see. So if a company or body corporate is liable to be wound up under this act, and it appears to the central government from such report that it is expedient to do so by reason of any such circumstances referred to in section 213, remember public interest, fraudulent nature, the central government cause to be presented to the tribunal by any person authorized by the central government. That means if the company is eligible to be wound up, they will expedite the process because of the reasons mentioned in the 213, for which you can go to NCLT to find an application. So if these are reasons which are justified on investigation, then a petition for winding of the company on the ground that it is just an equitable, so that it should be wound up. This is the reason. 271 mentioned 5 reasons where the company could be wound up. So one of the reasons is just an equitable. Or they can make an application for relief from operation, or both. They can be operation relief and they can file an application for winding up. So this is the second filing of petition at tribunal for winding up on just an equitable ground, or an application for relief from operation, or both. Third, initiation of winding up suo motu. From the report, it appears to the central government that in public interest, for the recovery of damages in respect of any fraud, misfeasance, or any other misconduct in connection with the promotion or formation of the management affairs of such company, or for the recovery of any property of such company or body corporate which has been misapplied or wrongfully retained. So when you want to recover for the damages or recover from the any property of such company which has been misapplied or wrongfully retained by someone, then they may bring the company under winding up. So the purpose is for recovery of damages, recovery of any property. So how can the government recover any damages or property? There's no such provision. No other law, no other section gives us the right to the central government to recover the damages from the company. How will they recover? They need to sell the assets. How will they sell the assets? Only when the company is being wound up. So that is why they will apply for winding up in public interest. Once the company goes into winding up, liquidator will be appointed. He will pull in the assets, sell the assets, that is recovery of any property. Whatever amount is realized, that will go for the recovery of damages. So that is why winding up suo motu by the central government in public interest. Here also, winding up, but by a person authorized by the central government. So they may ask the ROC, you go and file for winding up on just an equitable ground. And the fourth, where the report mentioned that the fraud has taken place and due to such fraud, any director, key personnel, or any other officer of the company has taken undue advantage, whether in the form of any asset, property, or cash in any other manner. The central government will file an application for the tribunal for appropriate orders with respect to disgorgement of such asset, the profit element. Disgorgement, whatever profit which you have earned, property or cash as the case may be, for holding such director, key personnel, liable personally without any limitation of liability. So 4 scenarios, 2 is of winding up, 1 through representative, second is suo motu. Then 2 are basically for guilty of offense, criminal liability, so that prosecutions can be carried on. 4, the fraud has been covered because of disgorgement of asset, property, or cash, where the person has taken undue advantage. Then the application may be filed to NCLT for appropriate directions. So these are the 4 actions subject to the report of 223. Subject to the report of 223. Under 208, there is only mention of report. There is no such word interim or final. While under 2T223, there is a provision of interim report if the central government if desires. Right? And if there is an interim report, then the final report may be given. So disgorgement means of asset means where you have taken profit because of fraudulent transaction. Then a disgorgement order will be passed so that you can recover the profit which is made out of such transactions. So disgorgement is basically any profit which you have made. So now we want to recover that profit. So therefore, the central government may file an application to tribunal for getting a disgorgement order, so that whatever profit which you have earned because of those fraudulent transaction, that may be retained. I hope it is clear, Shishti. Coming to expenses of investigation. Now, previously there was some talk about the expenses part. So there was first that the expenses would be incurred by the first instance, it will be incurred by the central government. And for security deposit, they will recover, they will keep 25,000. So here, finally, at the end of the expense report, which is submitted, which takes about, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years. Now, who will bear those expenses? So initially, all expenses will be borne by central government. That is the first thing. Right. So under 214, it is said that all expenses to be borne by the central government initially. But it all shall be reimbursed. So 225 talks about reimbursement of expenses. Reimbursement of expenses. From whom? Who will pay for this reimbursement of expenses? By the person who has been convicted on a prosecution which has been instituted. So if a prosecution has been instituted on a person, he will be liable for reimbursement of expenses. Or second, from a person who has been ordered to pay damages or restore any property ordered under section 224. Remember, we'll file an application to tribunal for getting an appropriate orders for damages, disgorgement of asset, property, cash. Then from that person, we will try to recover that amount. But the reimbursement, to the extent that he may be in the same proceedings, be ordered to pay and the said expenses as may be specified by the court convicting such person or ordering him to pay such damages. So reimbursement will be to that extent where the court will specify. So whatever the court will mention in the order, to that extent amount, that amount will be recovered. That is the first part. Second part, recovery from any company or body corporate whose name has been proceedings are brought into the investigation to the extent of amount or value of any sum of property recovered by it as a result of such proceedings. So whatever amount has been recovered from that body corporate or company which has been brought into the net of investigation because of investigation proceedings, then it will be recovered from that particular proceedings, from that amount realization of property. So first, the person who has been convicted under 224, this person, first person. Second, from that individual person where we give directions, seek directions. Third, from the body corporate who has been subject to certain proceedings under this investigation, in whatever amount has been realized from the property. Third, any company, body, corporate, manager dealt with the report by the inspector and the application for investigation whether the inspector was appointed at 213. Any company where body, corporate or MD or manager dealt with by the report of the inspector. So any other person against whom the prosecution has not been instituted, but they have been dealt with the report by the report of the inspector, and the applicants for the investigation under 213. Under 213, when an application has been made in the tribunal, so from these person, the amount will be recovered to the extent the central government may direct. So 3 people, remember, this is an exam question which you have to learn, from which the reimbursement of expenses will be done. Reimbursement of the expenses will be done. Two to 6 is a simple provision. This talks about that if an investigation has been carried on against a company under 216 or 219 or 212, then the investigation shall not be stopped or suspended only because of the reason that an application has been made under section 241 for operation mismanagement. So nobody can say that an application has been pending in 241 under tribunal, so you cannot do an investigation. Or the company has passed a special resolution for winding up under IBC. Remember, voluntary winding up is under IBC section 59. Or if any other order for any proceeding for winding up is pending before tribunal 271. So if in crux, if any application is pending under NCLT for any reason, you cannot make that as a ground for stopping such investigation. Again, an exam question, friends, that's been asked. Can investigation be stopped? And suppose if an application is pending for winding up and the hearing is going on and the NCLT admits that proceeding and says that winding up order done under section 271, then it is the duty of the inspector to inform the tribunal that yes, we are carrying out investigations against this company, and the tribunal may take cognizance of this particular fact and then pass such order as it may deem fit. And the winding up order shall not restrict any person before appearing in the proceedings before the inspector. That is very natural. Because what may happen, if you find that the investigation may be carried on, you come to know, then what you will do, you will file an application for operation mismanagement. or you will file a voluntary winding up process, or you may file an application for winding up on just an equitable ground. And then you plead in front of the investigating authorities that yes, because this application is pending, you cannot enter my house or search and seize the books. Very simple, you know. So that is why this particular section of 226 has been brought in. 227. Quite relevant. During the course of investigation, the authorities may call up the advisors, the legal counsel, and question them and ask for information. Are they allowed to appear? Answer is yes. Do they have to give that information? So if the legal advisor has got any privileged communication made to him in that capacity as a lawyer you want to disclose everything to your counsel, and that information is given to that advisor, then the advisor is not bound to disclose those information to tribunal or to the central government or to the registrar or to the inspector. And if you call any banker for any company, body corporate, or any other person, see, for that particular company, if you want information, everything will be given by the bankers. But if you want to find information of any other person other than the company or related matters, then the bankers are not liable to provide that information. It's confidential information. Is it clear? So again, an exam question, friends, 227 has been asked. Very simple one. Investigation of foreign companies. Again, all these provisions of this particular section will apply mutatis mutandis to the inquiry of foreign companies also. So one cannot run away on the pretext that I am a foreign company. And remember, if you are subject to investigation, who is required to provide an explanation statement during the course of inspection, he shall be punishable of fraud in the manner provided in section 47. If he destroys, mutilates, falsifies, conceals, unauthorizedly improves, or is party to the destruction, mutilation, falsification, concealment of the property, any other person who is, party who is in convive with this particular transactions or these type of actions, or he makes a false entry in the document concerning the company or body corporate, or provides an explanation which is false or which he knows to be false. So if you have provided any information which is false or which you know to be false, then you will be subject to 447. You will be subject to 447. So, a few questions before we conclude today's session. Any questions? Please raise your points, thoughts, views. We have covered MCQs also. We have covered a few descriptive type of questions. And we have covered all the sections from 206 to 229. So inspector appointed at 210 comes across transactions with related companies. He wants to conduct investigation into affairs of related company. Can he do so? The answer is yes, he can do so. Section 219 talks about see, remember again, 219, you need to refer to what section does it refers to, where it gives the right. So inspection is being carried on 210, 212, and 213. Remember, so 210, 212, and 213. So you need to remember the three conditions where holding subsidiary, control, or managed by the directors at any relevant time. Then to investigate into affairs of the other body corporate, 2C219 gives power to do so. Right? So he can investigate into affairs of related company. So you need to refer 219, totally reproduce section 219. So business of Mogango Private Limited is contracted fraudulently and management activities are not in the interest of the company. Good. Paid of capital company is 1 crore. Okay. A ground of shareholders numbering 110 members representing 1/9 of total voting power decided to approach NCLT to carry out an investigation into company affairs. Fine. They seek your advice in the following matter: where the ground can make a valid application. Other than member, can anybody make an application? Are the applicants required to furnish security for payment of expenses? Okay. So ground of shareholders, can they make a valid application? So friends, remember, we need to refer to 213. This is a scenario of 213. So if you refer back to 213, how many members are required? 1/10 and 100. Right? At least 100 members, at least, or having 1/10 of voting power. So here the scenario was what? 1/9, but they had 110 members. They had 110 members. So they are allowed. So initially, first instance, they are allowed. Right? Can anybody make an application? Yes, other than member, creators can also make an application. They can file a complaint. They do they need to furnish security? Answer is yes. Remember 214. They need to provide a security of 225,000 rupees for expenses. So 213, very important provision. During investigation conducted on the affairs of the company in public interest, the inspector observed that directors of the company had been acting on the instructions of holding company and he proceeded to investigate the holding company. Can you do so? Yes, we have just read that section 219, investigating into the affairs of related companies. The answer is yes, he can do so. If the investigation has been carried on, he can do so on the subsidiary or the holding company. Very well, he is got the right to carry out. So 219, you have to refer 219. Yes, Shishti, they are not liable to disclose all information to CG. See, for a banker, if information is sought for the company which is under investigation, yes, they have to give it. But if you call for information for some other company, other person, then they may not give it. So rest of the questions, I think, are quite similar to whatever we have discussed. I think not much of difference in all these questions. Again, the presentation will be shared with the institute. Therefore, these questions will be there with the presentations, along with the presentations. I'm sure with the coverage of this particular chapter, which is quite easy, I think you will be able to score 3 to 4 marks. So just recalling the sections, 206 is important one. 210, another important one. 209 and 220 you have to read in conjunction, so that you will read both the sections and you will be able to read it, understand. Whenever you read 220, 209, read it jointly. Then 213 is relevant. 213 is relevant. Then bail, to whom the bail could be offered. Remember that particular point. See, 210, 213 are provisions where you can file an application. So who can file an application? 210, 213, remember. 206 is absolutely very clear. I think that is must read section, to be read section. So 206, 209, 220. 210, mainly the conditions who can apply for investigation. 213, again, who can apply for investigation. Then it comes 216, 219, 221, 222, 224. 223 is about, again, 208 and 223 reports. 208 and 223 reports. 221 is freezing and restrictions for 3 years, remember. 3 years freezing and restrictions. 216 and 219 are investigating into affairs of some other thing. 208 and 223 is the report. 224 is the action on the report. And then the rest of the sections are very small ones, which will take 5 minutes to recall. 225, okay, expenses. 226 about, 227 is about bankers and advisors. 228 is about foreign companies, and so on. And 226 is about recovery of expenses. So that will take 5 minutes for revision. Rest, I think you need to spend about another hour or so. Quickly revise through this video lecture, and I believe you are through with this particular chapter. So any further questions? Otherwise, we'll conclude our today's lecture. Yes, no. If you refer to previous year papers, you'll find whatever we have discussed on similar patterns, the questions have been asked. I believe the institute material, institute website, the BOS portal contains lot many data. You should refer to those questions, and I'm sure you will be able to crack the exams. So thank you, and see you in my next lecture, which will be on winding up. Thank you.